Hello friends, in this video we're going to talk about the shooting in Wroclaw. As the title suggests, a Ukrainian is reporting on xenophobia and responding to armchair patriots. We're going to look at the flip side of Polish order and, well, basically why ordinary remarks in a store can lead to someone getting shot in the face. How campaign tactics have legitimized everyday aggression and why criticizing systemic problems is actually real patriotism, contrary to the shouts of, if you don't like it, get out. We'll discuss everything now. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Friends, a like supports the aerodynamics. Huge thanks to everyone who doesn't mind spending 2 seconds on these simple actions. Click the bell. Now let's get to business. News is coming from Dolny Śląsk that probably signals a deep crisis. The press, even the Polish press, wrote about a shocking scene. In Wrocław, a grocery store, a 30-year-old local resident started shooting. What do you think? What did he do? He aimed at the young cashier's face. By, of course, a random coincidence, he, the cashier, was a citizen of Ukraine. In general, the chronology of events is simple. The man bought himself a beer, went out onto the porch and, well, basically decided to cool off a bit while also picking on passers-by. The cashier asked him to stop disturbing public order, you know, according to the rules. Instead of reacting appropriately like, dude, calm down, come on, go home, drink your beer, the customer made a scene. Of course, xenophobic insults started, like, how dare you, a Ukrainian in Poland, who gave you permission to even open your mouth? Then the brave beer lover, though I like beer too, but I don't pull out an air pistol and point it at my opponent. During the ensuing fight, the attacker managed to fire several shots at close range. Fortunately, the shopkeeper did not receive serious injuries, well, because it was an air gun. The aggressor has been detained and faces up to 5 years in prison, 5 years behind bars. Let's see how much time he actually gets, because what the criminal code says is one thing, but what happens in practice is something completely different. In general, why does this happen, right? Let's turn on our skepticism and ask ourselves a question. Someone just made a remark to you, right? Is that really a reason to start shooting and make it about Ukraine and someone's nationality? This is no longer a random incident. This isn't even the first shooting, just this week alone. It's a certain symptom. Because there's an overheated information space. Ordinary people are under suspicion every day. They're under pressure from inflation, rising prices, and so on. Plus, they have their own internal problems. At the same time, right-wing populists are actively playing the migration card through the media, shifting the focus to discontent, instead of something like, maybe we should talk about what's happening with our economy. No. What kind? Here we have an enemy, this worker, this enemy, he's standing behind the counter, speaking with a foreign accent. Of course, I have a question. Why did you decide that, well, okay, but I speak with a foreign accent, I know 4 languages, and you barely speak Polish? Well, that's the reality. Next, there's a sense that anything goes when radical movements, which we've talked about, openly patrol train stations, testing the limits of what's allowed. Fringe types see this as a green light for street violence. Like, well, look, those guys in blue shirts are walking around checking documents, harassing some Nepalis and Ukrainians. Why can't I shoot at a shopkeeper? It's supposed to be funny and entertaining, supposedly. Next. Look, there is selective justice, right? And even the Polish press notes that Ukrainians are treated more strictly, yes. But now, in my opinion, in this particular case, I actually see a decline in the cultural and legal standards. When social inequality grows and hatred becomes legalized, an ordinary store just turns into a front line. Well, that's tough, my friends. Of course, I might be wrong. Maybe everything is fine. And yes, write in the comments, he deserved it. He came to someone else's place. That's my favorite comment. You came to someone else's place, so follow the local rules. Yes, that's what some people say the rules are. Yes, and of course, now I'll take 2 minutes to address my favorite haters, because in the comments, the favorite argument of narrow-minded people comes up regularly. So you criticize what's happening in Poland, so give up your passport and get out of here. The logic is absolutely childish, like in a sandbox. So is there something you don't like in Poland too? So you can leave too, just get out of here. Surrender your passport and leave, I don't care where, maybe Germany. I don't like it when Ukrainians are beaten, and I don't like it when Ukrainians beat Poles. So what? What am I wrong about? Please explain. So, I believe that if a citizen sees a problem, he should at least think about how it can be solved, not just shut up, sit quietly, or leave somewhere. Let's use materialist logic. Having a passport is not just a piece of paper for crossing the border. It's not a gift, you know, as some people think that passports are handed out to just anyone. And this, as if it's some kind of gift, has to be repaid with blind compliance. And yes, someone will comment, "You're not Polish." I don't care. Write what you want. You're not Polish either. So what? Ah, right. A passport is a legal document proving that a person is a full member of this society. There's a book called The Constitution, whether you like it or not. True patriotism is not about hanging on every word of right-wing officials or shamefully keeping quiet about all these marfas on the streets, the beatings, the shootings, the blatant fake news in the press. Yes, by the way, I think today we talked about how a clairvoyant just posted a video from Grozny and said, "These are Ukrainians having a brass knuckle fight." And in the comments it all started, "How dare they?" and all this level of hatred. Who is fueling this? Please tell us. And my opinion is this: I want to see Poland strong, governed by the rule of law, safe and civilized. If we're talking about such cases, social ills, you might call them, I urge you to stay calm, level-headed, and act within the law. And these patriots, I don't know if they're bots or real people, are labeling me an enemy of Poland. Yes, if you think so, right there. I, knowingly, do not consider you an enemy of Poland because of this or that, so we can have a specific conversation. Let's just turn this picture around and look at it without any nonsense. Who is really undermining the state? Is it the one who points out those lawless people who replace the police, or those who justify lawlessness, right? What do you think? It seems to me that it's those who justify lawlessness who say, "Oh yes, that's what he deserves. They took him and shot him in the face. Yes, yes, that's what he deserves." Who undermines security? The one who demands that laws be followed, like me, or those who are ready to turn the country, sunny Poland, into a testing ground for xenophobic outbursts? In my opinion, the answer is obvious. Silencing certain problems, cowardice, inciting hatred, this is the true path to degradation and the destruction of the state from within. Reasonableness, common sense, and strict adherence to the law are what protect Poland. And those who suggest, "Pack your bags and leave instead of solving real problems," are simply admitting their own intellectual incompetence. Oh, sorry, that turned out long, but I couldn't help but say it. Write all your comments. I read them all, even the hateful ones. So yeah, Baldy, why aren't you at the front? Baldy, why aren't you at the sea? And come on, give up your passport. So write all that too, because we need to promote the videos. So what else caught my attention? An article from the Polish press. Let's not speak Ukrainian. How the lives of Ukrainians in Poland have changed. Let's take a look at this. What's unfolding in the social and legal sphere? Well, right now, yes, in 2026. A recent report from the Institute of Political Critique, or Critica Polityczna. I'll be brief and focus on the main, most important points. First, the socioeconomic filter of state policy. What does this document tell us if we strip away all the unnecessary stuff? It clearly demonstrates how pragmatically the state apparatus operates in times of crisis. Changes in legislation and the rollback of special statutes were designed as a strict economic filter. Here, take a look at how the consequences have been divided. Young, able-bodied, economically active migrants who work in industry, services, or IT hardly felt the impact of these reforms financially. The state benefits from their labor force, so no one restricts their integration. The blow was dealt to those who require budget spending but cannot bring immediate income, right? That is, to the elderly, the disabled, and the seriously ill. They lost their allowances. Yes, some small amounts were taken, but we discussed this. And people are being kicked out of social assistance centers too. In times of austerity, the system gets rid of its social obligations to the most vulnerable. However, what's much more important is not the arithmetic of the reduced benefits itself, but how obediently society reacted to it, as researchers have recorded a massive, widespread increase in aggression from ordinary people. Look, I'm reading an article. You can write in the comments what you think, yes? External pressure, from insults on buses to everyday denunciations, forced migrants to adopt a self-preservation strategy. People began voluntarily refraining from using their native language in stores and on public transport, preemptively falling silent just to avoid drawing attention to themselves. Yes, by the way, I also recommend this. Because if you and your wife go to be a dronker in the evening, yes, when the local crowd gathers there for the last can of romper or some strong beer, not like me, then you should be a bit quieter. My advice to you, sincerely, no jokes, because next, the second conclusion, the mechanics of campaign tactics and the legalization of hostility. The most important fundamental conclusion of the report is the following. This tectonic shift for the worse happened not just because some law was passed. The switch of public sentiment was flipped by specific politicians during the presidential campaign in 2025. A classic political tactic was at work, when mainstream candidates from the largest parties, not radicals but quite respectable centrists, started to use anti-migrant rhetoric in unison and promised to cut support, all in the fight for ratings. The ordinary person at the grassroots instantly got the signal. Now it's allowed. In other words, the state itself legitimized everyday xenophobia, making it socially acceptable. Yes, we're saving money, that's it. Now it's okay to bully them. In times of economic hardship, the authorities always look for a convenient scapegoat, someone to redirect the simmering discontent toward. The population is unhappy with rising prices and a declining standard of living. But the laws of media and politics are relentless. When divisive rhetoric is used just to stay in power, it's always ordinary people who end up paying for this populism in their everyday lives. Well, that's just the reality. What to do about it is completely unclear. Maybe all that's left is political education. But honestly, my views are pretty low right now anyway, because if something doesn't get hyped, it just doesn't, Well, especially since not everyone watches the video till the end. And even more so, it's pretty hard to pick out a specific idea from something sophisticated. Well, what can you do? What can you do? As Ivan Franko used to say, lu pipit shuskalu. So, friends, I apologize for my French, for rambling. Anyway, let me remind you that the best money transfer service is TransferGo. The link is in the description. Send money to your family and loved ones. Support them. That's all for now. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Greetings to the working class. To carpenters, machinists, truck drivers, that's it. That's all for now. See you next time.